that is what I want to focus on in the next few slides. So moving on to the next slide. Now we accept that there is life pervading everywhere in the universe. Now the sentient beings or the souls, let's say sentient beings, they're pervading everywhere in the universe. So all the Vedic rishis have already given a classification of that. Krishna has already given a classification. We have already classified all these living beings spread across the universe. Verse 16 to 18 in chapter 15. Again, it says, it brings that to our mind. Dva imo purusho loke, kshara akshara evacha, ksharaha sarvani bhutani, kutastaha akshara uchyate. Then it says, uttamaha purushastvanyaha paramatma iti udahurataha. The same guy is also called Purushottama. Okay? So it says, all of the sentient beings in this world, they can be classified into three types. The Kshara Purushas, the Kutastha Akshara, which is only one, and the Purushottama, who is higher than two. So the question is, who are these Kshara and Akshara Purushas? Now, I've just taken some evidence from Paramashruti and Skanda Puran, for example. So Paramashruti, for example, we say, Brahma, Shivaha, Rudradayashta, Sharira, Ksharanat, Ksharaha. So that word becomes important. Sharira, Ksharanat, Ksharaha. So that gives you a definition of what a Kshara is. Kshara is those jivas that have a perishable body. And it starts from Chaturbaka Brahma to the lowest of the bacteria. They all have perishable bodies. So they are called Kshara Purushas. Okay, because they are jadas also come into that group, the material things also come into the group, because a pot, for example, is also destroyed. It becomes a mud. In that sense, it gets destroyed. So all the jadas and also the jivas that are there in this universe, they all become Kshara Purushas. Then there is another one, Lakshmi. If you look at Paramashruti, it says Lakshmi Aksharad Hatvat Aksharaha Tat Paro Hari. So Lakshmi is who? Kshara Dehatvat Aksharaha. She has a body, but her body is indestructible. It does not get destroyed. So that is why she is called Kutasto Aksharaha. Okay. Skanda Puran also captures the same thing. Brahma, Shiva, Suparna, Isha, Shakra, Surya, Guhadayaha, Sarve Kshara, Aksharatu, Shri Ekaha, Tat Paro Harihi. Clear definition of who is what. There cannot be any arguments on this. So these are Kshara, and then you have Akshara. Then you have the Purushottama, who is the Supreme Being himself, who is beyond all this. Now, even that Supreme Being is also described in the Vedas and the Upanishads as Akshara. So that is a different reason why he is also described as Akshara. For example, if you go to Mundaka Upanishad, and we discussed this in the very first class about Paravidya and Aparavidya. So there it came as Atapara Yaya Tad Aksharam Adigamyate. That body of scriptures that give us the knowledge of the Supreme is Paravidya. Okay. Mandukya Upanishad, very first verse, Om iti etad aksharam idam sarvam tasya upavyakhyanam. It says Om iti etad aksharam. That Om is this aksharam. This aksharam is this Brahman. This Brahman is this Supreme Being. And it goes on and talks about the significance of Om and so on. So what does that mean to summarize this slide? So Akshara, so Kshara means jivas. Okay. So jivas that have perishable bodies are called ksharas. Now, when the jivas shed their material bodies and reach liberation and they go to moksha, they have body, but that body is indestructible. So when they have attained moksha, then they also become Akshara Purushas. But they become Akshara Purushas only having been a Kshara Purusha before. Akshara Lakshmi has never had that situation. Vishnu is an Akshara, but he is an independent Akshara. His body never has any destruction, but he is an independent being. Lakshmi is dependent on him. Now, the word Akshara, again, the etymology of Akshara itself is very interesting. It says, Akshoti iti Aksharaha. He who is omnipotent and omnipresent and who knows everything is Aksharaha. You can separate that Aksharaha into Aksharaha. Ksharaha means destructible, means opposite, so indestructible. Then the other one is Aksha plus Ra. Aksha means your indriyas, your sense organs. Ra means he who is in your sense organs and enjoying your sense organs is called Akshara. Then you can also carry on splitting this word, because Sanskrit is such a beautiful language. You can take it into plus Ksha plus Ra. The whole of the Sanskrit language has got 51 letters, starting with A and finishing with Ksha. So all letters that put together form the Vedas. So the whole of the Vedas describe the supreme being, and when you know that, you get Ananda. Ra is Ananda. Yeah, Ramayati. Ra is Ananda. So again, it gives you all those various meanings. It's almost like, for example, you may be familiar with something called Kabbalah. Yeah, in Christian philosophers, they use this technique. The Jews, when they read the Torah, they use this technique called the Kabbalah, Kabbalic interpretation of the Torah, of the Jewish text in Hebrew, where they split and move the words here and there and get different philosophical meaning. So our Vedic philosophers have been doing this even before many of the other philosophers evolved. Is almost like a Kabbalic interpretation of what Akshara means. So this slide gives you the overarching classification of Kshara, Akshara, and Purushottama. Hold on to that idea, because the next slide, what I'm going to summarize is, so how can you classify this further? So the philosophers have thought about this problem quite a lot. So if there are all these jivas, if all these jivas are all over the place, then how do we classify them so that we can try and approach this in a very rational way? So for example, I'm taking this view from Tattva Sankhya, which is a work of Madhvacharya, which basically summarizes all these sentient entities. What is the classification? So all the sentient entities on the existence become what is called tattvas. So as I said, 24 tattvas, they all mix and form the material universe, and the jivas get the material bodies. So it says, Swatantram, Aswatantram cha dvividam tattvamishyase, Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnuhu. So there is this one independent being called Vishnu who is independent. Then you have Aswatantra entities, all else that are dependent on him. So then the philosophers would classify Aswatantra into two, Bhava and Abhava. Bhava means that which has existence, and Abhava is that which is non-existent. And within Bhava, they will classify this into sentient and non-sentient. And within sentient, they would say that which has never had suffering and that which has suffering. That which has never had suffering is called Dukkha Asprashta, which is Lakshmi. Then you have Dukkha Sprashtas, that is the ones that have suffering of some sort. Suffering means not just going through pain, but having that material entanglement or material covering itself is a Dukkha Sprashta. So then that is divided into Vimuktas and Dukkha Samstas. So Vimuktas are the ones that have already attained liberation. And then you divide those Vimuktas who are also Aksharas into Devas, Rishis, Pitrus, Pa and Naras. Naras are the highest among humans who have attained liberation. Pas are these great Chakravartis or kings who have attained liberation. Prahalad, for example, is a great example of that. Pitrus are, there is a separate Pitrugana devatas, but also the ancients or ancestors who have attained liberation. And then Rishis, the highly knowledgeable beings who have attained liberation. And then you have the Devas who have attained liberation. So that is one group. Then you have Dukkha Samstas, are the ones that are still in material, they have a material covering still, they haven't yet attained Mukti. So then there is a classification that goes Mukti Yogyas, Mukti Ayogyas. Let's not deal with Mukti Ayogyas at this point. Let's focus on Mukti Yogyas. So these are the beings, the sentient beings currently in this material universe. So the philosophers classify all the the sentient beings in the universe into 5 categories: Devas, Rishis, Pitrus, Pas and Naras. Yeah. Now, I had to spend the last 20-25 minutes to get you to this point of talking about Devas. The reason being, when we have to talk about Devas, we need to have all this background and then approach this concept of Devas as per Vedic philosophies. So what does the word Deva means? So in the English word divine, you've heard of divine, the coffee is divine. So the divine comes from the Sanskrit word Deva. That is where the word divine comes from. We use the word divyam, for example, in our language. So essentially the word Deva gives you an idea of light. It gives you an idea of jnana, knowledge. So these guys are highly knowledgeable. They are highly evolved sentient beings. So that is the idea that you can get from jnana, from the word devas. Now there are 6 different meanings for devas. Divu Kridayam, Divu Vijayate, Divu Stuti, Divu Kanti, Divu Gati, Divu Samarthya, and so on. So that is the etymology, the Nirukta of devas. So essentially what it means is, Divu Kridayam means every action for him is a playful action in the sense that they can do things very effortlessly. Yeah. Divu Stuti means people worship that higher exalted beings. Divu Samarthya means that high being has a lot of samarthya, has a lot of potency, it's got a lot of strength. So those are some of the words. So from devas, of course, there is the Devasya Deva, who is Vishnu himself, who's got all these 6 in infinite proportions. But there are the devatas who have these qualities in a limited proportions. So this is the idea of devas. Now, if you come to the left-hand corner of the screen, I have put this slide because I always get a little bit annoyed when people say, "Oh, this Hindu faith, they have so many gods, they are worshipping so many gods, and so on and so forth." And I sometimes feel sorry when people say that, because it is not their mistake. It is their ignorance that makes them talk like that. But at the same time, it is also our mistake because we have not informed them about what our devas actually mean. It is our own mistake that we have let this situation come to this point. Yeah. The reason why I say that is the concept of devas is not unique to Hinduism. If you go to Zoroastrianism, they talk about 7 different chiefs devatas. If you go to Christianity, let's not go too far. Let's go to Christianity. There are 10 devatas. They are the angels, the dominions, and so on. So they also have devatas. If you go to Islam, from Gabriel, they have 3 more. So they have 4 devatas, even in Christianity. So there are these devatas that are there in all views and all religions. It is not unique to Hinduism. It is really is not unique, and that is a message that if there is one concept that you want to take away from today's talk, that is one concept that I would want to take is this aspect of devatas is not unique to Hinduism. It is just that our devata philosophy is extremely evolved.
HinduKnowledgeAcademy.com will celebrate Vedic culture and present its philosophies to the modern Hindu in an accessible format. Our ancient heritage is our greatest strength. Through preservation and dissemination, together let us spread positivity in the world. Thank you for listening and welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy.